Good afternoon, everyone. I know you're always looking for new, exciting information about prehistory because a lot of this is cycles. A lot of things we're seeing in our world today seem to be revolving around cycles. You see there's a change that's occurring at the moment. So ask yourself, why are all the changes happening right this second when these same changes could have happened 10 years ago, 8 years ago, but why is it right now that the changes are occurring? Well, if we're entering into another cycle, something heavier, more powerful that will shift society, well, perhaps we are going to, look to the past, the ancient past, to see what is happening and how this could explain some of the changes we're seeing in our modern world today. So I have with me David Stig Hansen. Now, what's so interesting is he went out to Mauritania and hired guides and found his way out to the Richat Structure. Now, that's exciting itself, and that's a full program in its own, but we want to step beyond that to some new discoveries. After, I'm going to let him talk, I'm just doing the introduction here, but and after we spoke, he's like, yeah, there was some things that were there, they're not there, there's a lot of conjecture, but you know what? I found all this other stuff, canals and what looked like mining quarries and ancient mining slag piles and different things. That's really interesting. So let's, we were told that that was hunter-gatherers out in the desert, but same with areas around the planet. It doesn't really seem that the timelines were given are truly the historical timelines of humanity going back some 300,000, 400,000 years. So David, I appreciate you joining me, and we got the slides right up here. You can check out his channel, David Stig Hansen, or youtube.com/@Stig. Glad you're joining me. I have a lot of questions too as you go through the slides, because the travel out there into Mauritania in itself is kind of a mystical, it's on the map, but it's not really. I don't know that many people that have traveled there. And even just the travel section portion of you getting from point A to point B, and then even being able to get out to the Richat Structure is just, incredible travel tale that we could just talk about the travel, let alone all the other archaeological discoveries that you're sitting upon there. So walk us through it. What do you have?
Pretty good. I'm pretty good. Thank you again, David, for having me on. By the way, it's we've known each other for 10 years now. I met you in Taiwan,
Yeah,
and
I'm
who
sure
knew
have.
that 10 years later we'd be sitting here talking about this? I certainly didn't. And I wanted to start. You can see my screen. Can you see my smile on the other thing? Or
I can. I'm going to turn my head. I don't have my screen straight on, so I'm going to be looking to the left a lot on the video here to
yeah,
look at
me
your
too.
maps
Oh,
and
there I am.
graphics.
I kind of look. I'm an old man now, but I'll give it my best chance to wow the audience. Let's see here. We're looking at Ouadane, right? Or that's what that says. But we're looking at the Eye of Africa, and to get to the Eye of Africa, you've got to get to Ouadane, and even then, you still have another trek. But I personally had no clue. Of course, let's start from the beginning. I've been looking at the Eye of Africa for like 12, 13 years now. I have the evidence that shows. I said on Facebook one day, I'm going to go here, and I did it. And I probably wouldn't have done it without the help from Jimmy from Bright Insight, because he came out with this video 4 years ago showing two things mainly, right? The Herodotus connection, and also the what looked like the castle in the middle of the place. So I was fixated. And about 4 years ago, I just started every day visiting the Eye.
BlackRock warns, prepare for a recession unlike any other. History has proven the only way the Fed can fight inflation is with a recession. 80% of the retirees are concerned about inflation and very concerned about the stock market. Big banks and billionaires agree on two things right now. We're heading toward a recession, and investors need to buy gold. Patriot Gold Group is introducing the 2023 Recession Protection No Fee for Life IRA. Call the Patriot Gold Group today before it's too late. Mention ADAPT 2030 and you're going to get the best in-class service. Patriot Gold Group has a No Fee for Life IRA where your 401k or IRA can be in physical gold or silver on qualifying rollovers. 888-546-7020 to get your free investor guide today. And now on with the video.
And then, of course, COVID happened, and I ended up having to leave my job in Taiwan and reset my life. And luckily, I had a budget at the time, and I said, "That's it. I'm going to go." And it was in the middle of COVID. I didn't have any vaccines, so I had to use the CPR test to get out of LAX. The cost of the trip, and actually, it was a year ago. My first trip was. I'm just getting the Facebook reminders of the trip, and it's unbelievable how almost easy it was during COVID. I had to show the CPR test to get in and out, to get back on the plane. And I had to, what was the other problem? I had to, the ticket was canceled. The flights were canceled. There was a fresh new canceling of flights like January 10th. I was just about to buy the ticket and I didn't put my money down. And then suddenly the flight wasn't available. And I was down at AAA trying to get it through the travel agent down there because I wanted to meet with a live person. The flight was canceled, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a challenge. And I was just checking into everything, and suddenly there's no flights available. And I'm like, well, I guess I'm not going. And then I said, you know what? Let me just try to book my own ticket online. And I booked it for $1,500 round trip. If I'm wrong, it was 1,000. It was very cheap, both flights. And I just want to contrast that when I went the second time, just in October, and it was a different story. I was on French Air France, and I was checking the flight. I said, well, that's reasonable, but it turned out it was only the first trip to France, not the second trip. They were giving every one-way flight a separate price. So they were up to like $2,000, almost $3,000. And I wanted to get it as cheap as I had before. And I took a flight which went through Turkey, and I had to stay over for like 18 extra hours, which wasn't so tragic. I mean, I was experiencing Turkey from the transit lounge, and that was it. But then once I arrived in Nouakchott, and if you want to take
Nouakchott at? I've heard you throw this term around. That's the coastal city, right? Now, what are
you
those
see the
sand
map.
dunes that look like they're pouring off there? It looks like some space. Definitely some water came spilling over there. Erosion pattern.
Yeah. Well, you can't see that from the land very easily,
You
but
cannot. No, I didn't think you could.
we've
You'd be
been
right at the base level.
hypothesizing on this for a long time. Those dunes. This is Nouakchott. It's just a little tiny town. I believe that the ancient Taman Reset Paleo River didn't quite come out down here, but that didn't mean that there wasn't other stuff. And you fly in, there's the airport, right? There's an old airport. Is that the old one or the new one? Pretty sure that's like the old one, because I think the new one's way up here somewhere. It's quite a drive out of town. I guess that's it right there. And
all right, I'm getting dizzy with the movement here.
You're walking down the street, you're going to see. I'm sorry, I'm bad with the lens there, but you saw I can kind of get it back just a little bit.
Oh, no,
so
that's all right. Lens flare is good. It just shows there's bright sunshine. They were trying to use that out there as a solar panel area for concentrating solar power, and going to use high voltage direct current cables to deliver that sunlight, produce power up to Europe from there.
Can you imagine how just the idea of getting this?
No, what's the building there that we're looking at? I mean, what's the
well,
focus on
I don't
building?
read Arabic, but I do believe that is a military building of some sort. It's an administrative building that they decided they needed to do construction. And they, you can see they sealed up one hole that was in the front, maybe the same project or maybe a separate project. But the idea that they just busted through, maybe there was a window right there, but I just saw that and thought it was exciting. The fact that they would do it like that, you wouldn't get away with that. I don't know what kind of building
mud
it is.
flood in advance, already putting the entrance to the second floor already in place.
And you've got the same thing happening downstairs there.
Yes. What does the street life look like? Oh, they got a tuk-tuk there. I mean, how expensive is it to get around?
I didn't do it a lot because I didn't have any. I'm sorry. I speak English. I speak Mandarin Chinese, and I speak Spanish. None of those languages work in Nouakchott. When you're going down the street, there's mainly speaking a Berber Arabic. It's kind of like a combination of Berber and Arabic. If you spoke Arabic, everybody would understand you. But if you're going there, you may not understand what they're saying if you speak Arabic. The poor, they put their money on the table and they show off the change they do have. asking for a little more. This is a basic thing happening when they're that stick that they were chewing on that wood the whole trip. This is taking me back a year. This is my first trip. I haven't looked at these videos in a while. The first trip and even the second trip, I didn't really focus on the Nouakchott stuff. I was focused mainly on, and I'm not going to show you these videos the whole time. I'll give you a couple more of downtown
Yeah, and
Nouakchott.
what,
Of
yeah, I'm
course,
curious downtown what it looks like, and
well,
what was the
it's
accommodation where you stay, and moreover, I mean, were people really knowing that there was such a large structure of historical significance in the country, or was it just like, nah, it's always been there, we don't even think about it. Oh, you're here to see that? Oh, why would you do that? I mean, what's their feeling of the place itself?
well, people in Nouakchott have no clue about the Richat structure. I mean, they do have a clue about it. It's on their money. It's on one of their currency denominations has the Richat structure, and they've also got the where you add value to the cards, and it's on one of those. I brought a couple of those back, and the funny thing was my host. I entered the number. He immediately crumpled it up, and I was like, "What are you doing? I want that." And so I uncrumpled it, and it
Yeah, he
just
thought it
shows
was rubbish art. You got the number out of it already. No, I want the artwork on it.
yeah, I wanted to save this. Yes, I that's their iconic building, and I wanted to point that out right over there. I don't know if you can see my mouse moving,
I
but
can.
right over to the left where the construction is happening, there's a question that someone is going to ask: is how did I get to the Rashad? Well, there's a Euro car right there. See, I didn't really. I'm not the type of guy to go to a travel agent and get it all figured out in advance. And I also knew from talking to Josh Ferguson and Graham from Indie Archaeology, those two. Well, Josh doesn't have a YouTube channel anymore, but he's got a prominent website and Indie Archaeology. He's there right now. In fact, when it comes to the YouTube community, he and I are both. Sorry, yeah, we are the only two people who've been there twice. I'm sure that if you count the guides, they've been there hundreds of times. So there's nothing special about that. But I used to be the only guy who had been there twice. Now today, Indie Archaeology is there, and so I was talking to those guys and listening to um their videos about it. And that it was even before I even went. It was like before I even came home from Taiwan. And the questions were, the first thing I asked Graham was, "Why didn't you go to the castle?" We probably should get this up on the screen.
So I'm just
Right.
curious what kind of things you might have passed. But like, how far is it for you flew into the airport there? How far is it to actually get out way into the
It's
desert?
about a
What we're seeing
6 hour
there,
drive. I
and
was
how much is your land transport talking? Yeah, you turn sideways. How much is the land transport if you're going to get out there and move around?
Did I get back?
Yeah, you're
Okay,
back.
so
Straight.
let's start right here with this image of their national. I don't really know if that's their national building, but it's very iconic. And it's not exactly in that building, but it's to the left of it. There is something called Eurocar. And Eurocar it is really the way to go because they have the newest trucks. They have drivers. You do want to let them know. There's a couple of things about the Rishat. If you want to go to the Rishat, it shouldn't be a problem. But if you want to go to some other places, you need a second truck. What I would do if is to go back to Eurocar and get one truck, drive out to Atar, and I show the map now?
Yeah, sure should. I'm interested
Drive
in
out
the
to
journey
Atar.
through the desert there too, because I remember you showing me when we first talked. You had a journey like looking out the windshield, driving through the desert there, and what to expect.
Right. Well, that's going to be an easy one. I'm going to show you that secondly, but let me put in
Yeah, because
everything so we
the
have the
conjecture
road.
was that water spilled off after the upraising of the continent, and that the water spilled off, and that's the what you see there moving from east to west is the water spilling over a continent and then leaving those gouged out scar marks, much like you would see anywhere there was a mega flood. And I
Oh
remember
yeah,
you had said something
I
that you'd
you're
met
talking about
Randall
ice.
Carlson, and they were talking about the floods up in the Dakotas as well. So you look for some of those scar marks along in there.
Right. Well, in you mean North and South Dakotas? The
Yeah,
Scablands, I think Randall
yep,
talks
that's right.
about, and yeah, and also the bays, the Carolina bays. Okay, I am not going to sit here and debate whether or not there was isostatic rebound. I can say one thing. I believe that the Taman Reset Paleo River, if you want to follow my mouse, came from up here, and Taman Reset Mountains are over here. Where's Taman Reset? There, it's right there. There, I'll get into this area later because there's so much stuff to look at. I just want to say right here that the river started from up here, came down about here, came along. I call this the big fish because it looks like a fin. Came along here, went up and over the Federic. I say Federic, that's three syllables. It's probably one, Federic. But anyways, it goes up and over this and then comes back out. And we all know that it comes out about here. And let's not forget, this faded blue is the ancient shoreline. So it actually exited out way out here. But when the ocean waters rose, probably from the Younger Dryas event, probably from the ice sheets being melted, those shorelines moved inward a little bit. And so that's why I don't want to say that this shoal of mud is the same shoal of mud that Plato wrote about. However, it's right there, and maybe, I don't really know if the Plato story. Let's just take one quick look at this distance. This is
right. And Stig, could I add a little something in there for all the other
sure.
listeners? Now you have to remember, some 6,000 years prior, there were mega lakes all across what we now know as bone dry desert. It was savanna lands, grasslands, and we're talking massive lakes, equivalent of what we consider the Great Lakes in the United States. Yeah, that's it right there. And you start to look at some of these drainage basins in some of these areas that would capture water first. And, there you go. That's exactly right. I mean, the amount of life that was through the Sahel is staggering. Now, for me, looking back at some of the maps from the 1500s, they still show some of these lakes, not at the volume that they are now. But, again, history tells us that place has been dry, bone dry for 4,000 years. Yet I look at maps from the 1500s, 1600s, and they're showing lakes and marshes and rivers and estuaries full of water. So, right there's a discontinuity in history in itself, just even in the pretty close in modern era. Sorry to interrupt. Go right ahead again.
Oh, no. And thank you for filling in the blanks, because I'm thinking of what's on my head. But now let's just be honest. This river wasn't so thick. This is representative of the main line, and then some others. And then those lakes. I mean, we can't ignore those 1,500 maps you just made reference to. How did they get this information? Some people say it came from the Library of Alexandria, and the data there was much older. And other people say that they're just making it up. I don't think that this is made up right here. This is the Lake Maghreb. This is the Lake Chad or Mega Chad, some of the largest freshwater in the world at its time. The Taman Reset River was as big as the Nile, maybe not as long. I followed that just the other day to see where it would take me, the White Nile, the Blue Nile. And over here on this side, we probably had the same story, a lot more different, smaller rivers going into it. And if you look at the way the Mississippi River, I mean, it looks like it's a spider web. So, of course, this is just the basic secondary and main river, not all the tributaries. Two things I'm going to show you: the Richat, but also what was maybe before the Richat, maybe what was happening before Atlantis. Let's finish this. The trip from Nouakchott to Atar. Atar is a key point. You got to get to Atar. And
once you get to Atar, right there.
I'm going to move that over to Atar. Yeah, Atar, Atar. And the guy, Graham, from Indie Archaeology, did what I wanted to do, which is he flew directly to Atar. There's only one flight, Point Afrique, and they have flights once a week from Charles de Gaulle, Paris, to Atar, and the price is $380, about $400 one way. So you're in Atar, you need to get home. That's another $400. You definitely can do it cheaper by renting a car from Nouakchott. The distance here says 250 miles. Let me show you some video of that trip. Let me get that out.
How easy is it to find petrol?
Okay. There's no, okay. So there's this city here. Actually, I wish that the letters stayed bigger. This is a mining town. You can see the mine right there. So that's the first stop. You don't need gas there because we're going to Atar. It's only 250 miles, but you definitely need to get gas in Atar. And then after that, you're taking a road that goes up over to the Adrar Plateau. You're getting up here. This is a main point for me right here. It says Passe des Nouakchott. And I believe that I don't know what that means, but that's where you want to enter the Adrar Plateau. There's a couple of other places, but then you're going to start worrying. You definitely have a full tank of gas. You're worrying here now. Chinguetti has fuel, and I'm going to back out and I'm going to follow the road over to Ouadane, and Ouadane has fuel. Let me just show you where you buy your fuel there. So, did I answer so far? I mean, that's it. Those are the only two places that have fuel. I have a map that shows that. So if you want to get over here to the far corner of the eye, which I tried to do it, but the guides didn't want to go that day, and then I got talked out of it, and I was going to go by myself. But
Yeah, I
I
wonder what
said,
they were hiding from there because they talked you out of it and they didn't want to go, but they'll certainly take you to
well,
the
they
middle
said
of
that
it.
it was deadly. They're trying to scare me. I want to go and see what this thing is. So going there, you need to get a bunch of tanks of gas and put them in the back of the truck.
And
Also,
water.
another
You can't
and
drink
water. Yeah.
gasoline, Stig.
Well, I can avoid not drinking for a day if I have to. It wasn't hot. I wasn't sweating, but you
Oh,
can't
that's right.
avoid
You were in a different
fuel.
time. Okay, so it depends on the time of the year as to if it's scalding, what you consider say like desert Sahara sands,
That
versus.
that flight that I mentioned in Atar, that flight directly to Atar doesn't happen except from December 15th to like March. So if you want to take that flight, you have to make sure you're in season. But yeah, and so let me just show you on the Ouadane. So I got into Ouadane at night, so I didn't really know what I was seeing. But then last time I went, this little road was under construction, so we had to go up around, and that was a hassle. I won't talk about that because if the road's good, you go right into town, you climb the hill here, and there's the hotel right there. That was the hotel. They were very kind people, fed me. I don't think that the food was extra. And I just wanted to say I stayed in Atar and I ordered a bunch of food thinking it was part of the deal. And I paid an extra, almost the same price as the room. So you got to be careful about that free food. But that's the hotel. I can't remember the name exactly. What is that?
And
They're
how
not
much
going
would
to
you
give it to me
spend
on the
out
map.
there for food and accommodation
Oh,
when you're out
the
there,
common,
Wayne?
it's like $50. Not expensive. I mean, that is expensive, but you're talking about a foreigner cruising into town and getting a room. You're going to spend at least $50 out here. Maybe a little more. Maybe you can cut a deal. Another issue is the language barrier, and I didn't have the internet, so I wasn't able to get online and do translations.
Oh man, you're going
Luckily,
back Lonely Planet style back in the day when you had to
yeah.
carry your Lonely Planet book with you because there was no internet when you got out to any location almost.
One other thing I bought was this. Can
Oh,
you see?
saffron.
Yeah, I got it for the trip because I didn't want to be stuck in the middle of this Sahara Desert. This thing, don't get me started. I was going to try to keep it working, but it's just too prohibitively expensive to keep that working. But when you're going to Africa, but from my understanding, the second time I went, I called them back up and made sure it was on and paid him like $150 and got like 30 days service. Went to Africa the second time, and then when I came back, they said, "Oh, by the way, if you don't get it again, you're gonna have to get a new SIM card." Well, luckily this has got the SOS button on the top. So the SOS button, I think that's red in there, right? The SOS
Yeah,
button.
press it right now.
Well, it's got to be on, right? The SOS button apparently works whether it's registered with a SIM card or not. But now I heard some new smartphones are going to have an SOS button on it that works with GPS. So sat phones are, I mean, at least the SOS button part that's finished. I don't know. Let me show you where the gas station is. It's right there where it says
Yeah, because
bakery.
you showed me a few images of walking around Ouadane, and they were pretty cool stone walls and kind of old, ancient looking part there, the left down there in the old town.
Yeah, over here, right? And the very first one I did, they're all on the YouTube channel. But the first one I did was the most amazing feeling. Okay, here's what I just realized: they got the wrong name. Auberge means hotel, and Varenne is the name of the hotel. That's the wrong spot. It's here. I know for a fact it's there because that old gas station nearby is right there by the door. So that's wrong. It's over here. And when you drive past it and cut up here, either the gas station is right here or right here. You're like, well, where's the station? That's the station, right? You can tell. But no, this is coming out of the side of somebody's house. So I'm pretty sure it's like right there. It's coming out of that building. It's easy to find. You just drive out of the hotel and you've got your gas. And yeah, you want to fill up. I mean, honestly, if you really know your distances, you don't have to worry about a quick trip into the Richat from there. It's not that far, right? It's actually, let's measure it. You drive out. I wish the line was a little bit bigger, and you kind of go this way, and then you enter about here, and you get through the first ring, and then you got to cut through here. It's a little shortcut, and then you are here, and you go up to the center. That's only 24 miles. So you don't really have to fill up your tank if you're 3/4 full for a trip to the center. Now, my second time, I wanted to get over here, but unfortunately, due to circumstances beyond my control, it didn't happen. I wanted to visit this city, and I also wanted to visit this city, but unfortunately, the
Wait, I don't
guides.
see a city out there. You're talking about an ancient city,
It's not a city. I'm wrong to say. I misspoke. I
town,
misspoke. No,
settlement.
not even a town. Not even a town. One building.
Well, that counts as settlement.
Yeah, it's a settlement, and there are people all over out there. Yeah, that's the
Unknown
weirdest.
structure right there on the map. That's
Let's go
crazy.
out there. What is that? See, that's not really. That's just Okay, so why did I go the first time? I'm waiting for that. Okay, I can tell you something else. The recent imaging, satellite imaging, is terrible. It's really low quality. So if you're really serious, you got to go. And I'm going to hover over it, but I'm not going to click on it. You've got to go over to your Google Earth Pro, and you've got to use the history and see the previous one. These are really terrible.
Or you could go to
So
ArcGIS and do GIS and overlay map on there, I'm sure.
yeah, you can go and get a shot from every day. And I stopped trying to do that. Okay, so here we are in the middle, and it says ruins right there. There are no ruins right there. See, people keep putting stuff out there. That is not a ruin. That's just a little settlement. And when I went there, the people were not there. Um, this is all saying the same thing. The eye of the Sahara, the Richat Structure, the eye of the Sahara. But when you get to the center, you go this way and you try to get to the castle. And that's
So
what
you're
I was
heading
doing.
east. Now, what is this castle you're referring to?
All right. So I got to stop saying castle. First, this might be where the well is, but I'm going to show you the castle. It's right over here. Jimmy brought this to our attention. If you don't know Jimmy, what's his last name? I keep saying the wrong last name. That's why I don't want to say it wrong.
Bright
Scorsetti.
Insight.
Jimmy Scorsetti of Bright Insight. And he was the one that brought this to everybody's attention, and it blew my mind. But now I can tell you, the minute I got there, I was like, oh. And I'll just let you know, these are war games. This may have been like a little headquarters because it's a little bit bigger. There's about 3 of these in the structure, 2 of them that are prominent, one of them that's all decayed.
Now, do you have
But
some images that you took yourself of this structure out there?
Yeah, let me get it up. Let me just.
Yeah, because I'm thinking, this Eye of Africa, like everywhere you turn, there's going to be an ancient ruin out there, and it should be the foundation bedrock of a city if it was Atlantis. Like you're going to be stumbling and tripping over stone artifacts and da 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 da. At least that's the image they place in your head. But you're telling me there's something completely different going on out there, that supposed locations are not what they seem, and then there's all these canals around.
I'm gonna get the video.
That's the stone.
That's it. Yeah. And basically it's a pile of rocks, and they're about 150 years old. I think there's a bunch of French headquarters that are out there as well. And
French Foreign Legion back in the day, eh?
Well, foreign. Why foreign? Yeah, the French military doing war games. I'm gonna get the videos pulled up.
So that's what those walls are, is what you're saying there, right there. Those stone, the stones that are stacked on top of each other in that straight line formation. Those are and that's all the taller it is. The walls out there.
That's all it is. So the castle is modern day, and we call them fortresses. I'm trying to find the video. I'm sorry I didn't have that ready for you, but the fortresses. I'm just gonna.
Oh, there we go.
This is over by Ouadane, and these are very short videos. I think they're only like 15 seconds each, so I'll just let it play. If it's not Ouadane, I think we're pulled over for a police roadblock right there. And I did put on some spy glasses. This is basically going across the Sahara.
The roads aren't in that bad of condition, are they?
No, sometimes the sand dunes get in the way. Last time I went, the sand dunes had been moved out of the way, but the first time I went, we had to pretty much drive over sand that had blown across the road. You can see it in Google Earth sometimes when you're following the road. I must have been wiping my nose. Sorry about that. I'm wearing those spy glasses and trying to find the best way just to, get it all in. My driver, we couldn't communicate. He didn't even speak French. So I started to translate stuff into French, and he didn't even get that. So I just kind of pointed and grunted. That's where we got.